A great workout deserves a great reward. Treat yourself right with new coconut smoothie bowls made with fresh fruit, purely Elizabeth granola, and now creamy coconut. You earned it. Grab a treat you can feel good about, only at Smoothie King.
I'm Phil Kitramalides.
And I'm Sid Lowe.
And every week we bring you the latest from La Liga in the Spanish football podcast. Sid, this season's going to be amazing, isn't it?
We've got Kylian Mbappe at Real Madrid, Dani Olmo at Barcelona, and Julian Alvarez at Atletico.
Don't forget Nico Williams at Athletic Club as well.
And definitely don't forget Leganés. Their mascot is literally a giant cucumber.
Hear all about it every Monday in the Spanish football podcast.
Thanks for choosing this free Anfield Index podcast. If you'd prefer to listen to this or any of our other shows without adverts, then now's the time to check out Anfield Index Pro. With AI Pro, you can supercharge your entire listening experience. You'll not only get all of our podcasts without the ads, but you'll have them far faster with our Quick Publish feature available exclusively for subscribers. AI Pro also puts you in the heart of our sound studio, with an option to listen to many of our shows live and interact with the podcasters in real time as the shows are recording. Upgrading couldn't be easier. AI Pro is available on all popular podcast platforms. Just head on over to AnfieldIndexPro.com and get started today.
Hello and welcome to AI Scouted. I am not Dave because he's skiving this week. That's how we're going to put it. And joining me is Karl as usual. How you doing, Karl?
Fed up with having to carry the slack for Dave. I don't know about you, mate.
Should we add on 200 points?
Minimum.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. That's just disgusting.
It's not even a League Cup week.
That's the thing. Full on Champions League week. Just didn't even do the League Cup pod last week.
You did me a favour. Next time he brings up some sort of make-believe holiday about me, you just remind him of this, all right?
Well, I've got stuff on both of you now. You've got $1 million holidays and he's skiving. And I have no holiday in sight, so there's nothing on me. Anyway, we're going to go through the Palace game, but first we're going to start off with a bit of the Champions League action. Obviously, we played and beat Bologna last night. Karl, you were in attendance. Were you working or did you just fancy a goal? I'm guessing you were working.
I was indeed working, yes. Sadly, I am not among the, millionaires and so on who can just fancy a game and just turn up and go. That just doesn't happen to me, I'm afraid. So no, I have to go and do my shift to be able to watch them.
It's disgusting.
Disgraceful.
The working man down as usual. But what did you think of the game? It was a bit, well, before we put the mics on, a bit up and down, but it was a bit of a weird game, especially the first half, you'd say.
Yeah, I mean, we were ludicrous first half. No two ways about that. We played well when we had the ball, in their half of the pitch. I think movement was pretty good. Tempo of the game was decent enough. Again, I don't want to keep going on about the Champions League, but I will. I just think that because, again, there's not like a do-or-die situation as such with this league phase. It's kind of going to be normal that attentions are going to wander a little bit and maybe the intensity's not there some of the time or the diligence in some players' games. I mean, we had a 20-minute spell or so last night, which was obviously absolutely calamitous, and we were very, very fortunate to not concede at least one, if not a couple of goals. So, first half was hit and miss. Second half, I'm assuming after Mr. Slot sort of got into them a bit and had a few choice words to say at half-time, I thought we were very, very good, controlled all the way through. Mostly dominated the game up until the last 5 minutes or so when they had a bit of a flurry, but by and large, I thought we were really good second half.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. Is there anyone you'd like to pick out in terms of good performance? I know Dominic Szoboszlai's kind of been in the limelight a bit for probably the wrong reasons, in terms of people wanting Jones to start, which is maybe a different discussion if you just want actual rotation, but people have been asking Dom to be dropped more so than anything. For me, I thought he was probably one of our best players. I know he had a bit of an iffy spell when everyone else did, and he had a wayward header that kind of led to a Bologna attack. But in terms of his off-ball work and combination with Salah, I know he got an assist, but it's one of those crappy assists more so than anything. But I thought Dom was good. Is there anyone else you'd like to pick out, or just stay on Dom? It's up to you.
I thought Szoboszlai was best player on the pitch. On the ball, much improved, much more diligent with his passing. There were a few, should we say, final third balls which went astray, but I kind of felt that they were more to do with the run that did or didn't happen rather than his, way to pass or the timing or that. The one you mentioned, the header at our end of the pitch, I'll be honest, I would put Dom about fourth or fifth in line of people to blame for that. There was a serious amount of fucking about beforehand. There was also the previous pass just before Ali gave it to Dom. He played it into feet to Gravenberch, who was running back. The pass to make there was a flick on his left as he was running back towards Ali, so out to our right back zone, which was a bit of space for Trent there, but obviously he either didn't see him or didn't think it was possible to make it, and it went back to Ali, and we kind of got hemmed in there. So I wouldn't really put that on Szoboszlai. It was 2 feet above his head, and he just kind of had to try and do something with it. Generally speaking, though, I thought he was excellent. Like on the ball, like I said, really good, but off the ball, excellent. Like tracking back, making challenges, covering when they broke off our set pieces, loads of balls he broke up in the middle of the third of the pitch. I just thought he was very, very good. I think overall, all three midfielders were pretty good. Like they each had moments, like we've just mentioned with Dom and Gravenberch there, where they didn't do the exact right thing, but we kind of have to be okay with that happening sometimes because we play in a very specific way, which is high risk, high reward. It's not the same type of high risk, high reward as we had previously, but the midfielders still have to take a lot of responsibility and a lot of times on the ball on their shoulders and do really good things with it. And sometimes they don't come off, and that can be costly. So I'm all right with them trying it. I thought McAllister was absolutely sensational second half. Gravenberch obviously had loads and loads of individual moments where he was able to run through or win the ball back or whatever it was. So again, a really positive all-round showing from the three midfielders, I think.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I think they were definitely the best position on the pitch. I mean, the two centre-backs defended well. There was playing out from the back was a bit of an issue in that spell that we've mentioned. The full-backs were a bit quiet, I thought. Didn't help with the referee being so card happy. I mean, both centre-backs and, both our left-backs got booked, and I'm not sure many of them were actually bookings. Anything else you want to mention about the game? Second half was kind of just standard win, really. Salah goal and assist.
Yeah, Salah goal and assist in a game he didn't necessarily do tremendously well in all the time. Pretty standard for Salah, isn't it? Yeah. I mean, I thought we were good without being great. There were plenty of things to improve upon, even outside of that stupid 15-20 minute spell. But generally speaking, we're not even 2 months fully into the season yet. New manager, these people to fit into slightly different roles. I thought we were generally good, and it's a Champions League game, and we got 6 points out of 6, and already that looks very, very comfortable in that competition. So, I'm not going to complain too much, even though there might have been things that we could potentially improve upon, because you would expect that at this stage of the season, really.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's have a quick look at some other Champions League action, and we'll start with a couple of the other Premier League teams. I mean, Arsenal beating PSG. Arsenal were very impressive, Karl, and there's no taking away from that. I'm not sure if you've seen the game. You've probably seen the highlights at the very least. But what's happened to PSG? They've spent a lot of money, and out of that side, I'd maybe like the fullbacks and Vitinha. Barcole is good, but we have 700 left wingers.
I mean, the lineup which played against Arsenal specifically, I did see this game, actually. I went up to Liverpool on Tuesday afternoon, so I was in place and watching the Arsenal match that evening. So they did have quite a few players missing. We have to at least nod to that. Asensio, I'm not sure if he made it back to the bench or not, but, Ramos is out, Hernandez is out. Dembele's obviously had a falling out with Enrique. So some players missing, but basically what they've ended up with is a very, very middling side. There's some players there who could be really good, but they don't look, let's say, any different from Dortmund of a few years ago, should we say, where they have a host of decent players, maybe a star in the team somewhere. They've got Donnarumma, obviously, who you'd probably put as the highest profile player, or Marquinhos. And then they've got a bunch of really potentially very, very good young players, but they're still developing them, Once Ruiz is fully fit and back in the team, let's say Randall, Colomwani sort of steps up and gets himself a bit of a big role and so on, it's still a good side. It's still like quite a good side, but you're right, considering the money they've spent, considering the time it's been, they've tried the massive names approach, it didn't work. The massive money approach, it didn't work. And they've kind of ended up here at a fairly second-tier team, I think it's fair to say.
Yeah, they're obviously, I think, the joint top in League One at the minute, which is an odd. They'll obviously go and win it, most likely. But there's years where you think, oh, if it clicks, PSG could win. Whereas this year, like, they've got a really tough schedule, fixture list in the Greasy. If they get playoffs, they'd probably snap your hand off at this stage. It's very, very strange. But on the other side of the game, I mean, Arsenal set pieces again. Donnarumma kind of had a bit of a nightmare. Just never looked comfortable defending Arsenal. Probably are the best set piece side in the world at the minute. I said this to Nina earlier when we were doing the Euro show. It's weird to say because it's Arsenal and they've never won the Champions League. But it feels like their tactics of, well, basically being Simeone from when Atletico Madrid were good, I feel like that should translate well into being a good contender for the Champions League, because you wouldn't want to play them in a two-legged tie, and they're annoying to play against because, well, they do this Stoke football. But I'm not going to say with any confidence because it is Arsenal, but it feels like they should be an annoying contender to win the Champions League, but I say that with no confidence.
Yeah, I mean, look, they should be contenders to win all the competition, shouldn't they? At this stage, with the amount of money they've spent, with the cohesion they have, the length of time the manager's been in place, like, they are in a better overall situation than a lot of teams around Europe. So add that to the fact that most of their players are really good. Yeah, they definitely should be contenders. Like, I would say the setup for Arsenal is probably lends itself to cup football quite a bit, like you say, over two legs especially. Defensively, they've been really resolute. They haven't lost domestically yet. I kind of agree, to be honest. I don't see... If you were to list 6, let's say, Champions League contenders, I'd probably have Arsenal in the 6, maybe just outside that, because they haven't done it before. But if we remove previousness and just go on what we've got this season, I'd probably have them inside the top 6, I guess.
City, Real, us, Bayern. I mean, they weren't great against Villa, which we'll come on to.
Yeah.
I don't need a VPN. I've got nothing to hide. This is what I used to tell myself before I hooked up with LibertyShield.com. Not only is my home internet now fully encrypted, but I can now access all the websites I want, whenever I want, and do so from absolutely anywhere. As a Liverpool fan, I love to know I can now watch every match, regardless of whether it's on UK TV or not. My Liberty Shield VPN makes sure nothing is blocked and guarantees me super fast streaming speed throughout that match. You can get connected right now with their software package, which includes a 48-hour no-obligation free trial and instant access to their apps for Apple, Android, Fire TV, PC, Mac and Android TV. Or go a step further like I have and get one of their pre-configured VPN routers. These small but powerful devices allow you to easily connect every device in your home to VPN, making it the perfect solution for smart TVs, Mac boxes and games consoles. Visit LibertyShield.com today and use coupon code AIVPN25 to get 25% off at checkout.
Arsenal, Barcelona, similar-ish?
Yeah, I mean, I'd probably lean Arsenal over Barcelona because, well, one, at Barcelona have got a hell of a lot of injuries, but also Arsenal have much better cohesion than Barca have had. But
Inter, I should throw in as well.
Yeah, Inter is probably the other one, and Bayer Leverkusen are the other two who've chucked into that initial group, let's say. Probably I'd be putting, like, you know, Atletico in the next bucket down and Aston Villa in the next bucket down, and
Brest, obviously.
Yeah, goes in that same. Benfica, yeah. Vanquishers of Atletico Madrid 4-0 last night, in case anybody missed that. Yeah, but I'd put Arsenal in that top bucket of half a dozen teams for sure.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. Let's do Villa. We've no point talking about City because who the hell cares? Villa, I mean, 1-0 win over Bayern. It's weird because Bayern have obviously started the season so well and they were awful last year, finishing third. I know they played Leverkusen at the weekend and drew. It felt like a big week for Bayern, and to come out of it with a draw and a loss to Aston Villa, I mean, does that put any doubts onto their season?
I don't know whether it will do domestically. I mean, it may well do, but I don't feel like it will. And I didn't see the game last night against Villa, so all I've done is saw the goal and I've looked at the match chart, the stats, all that kind of stuff. So in terms of numbers, and again, I don't know if this is accurate representation of the match. I didn't watch, but you've got real dominance of the match itself from Bayern Munich. Plenty of chances created, plenty of decent quality chances created, but where they've basically not taken their best chances, Villa took their one pretty decent one. So I don't know. I mean,
Upamecano was probably lucky to stay on. No, that's probably something to add because they left Upamecano 1v1 with Watkins to defend, basically, because, as you mentioned, they had a lot of control. But when Villa did get free twice, Upamecano basically dragged down Ollie Watkins. And you could argue that is a goal-scoring opportunity. He didn't try and play the ball, but you only got one yellow card out of two very similar instances. So, and Upamecano's a bit crap, let's be honest.
I mean, look, there's going to be questions over Vincent Kompany, full stop. So whenever bad results happen, until he proves that he can overcome them and be consistent in his side, that's just going to be the case. That's how it is when you haven't done well in your previous jobs and you've somehow managed to land one of the biggest in world football. Got to put up with that. But, we're looking at 17 shots to 5, 70% possession, 1.5 XG to 0.4, 11 corners to 1 big chance apiece. Set play XG is even sort of fairly reasonable in Bayern's favour. So it doesn't look like they perform badly from numbers.
I think Martinez got man of the match of that context.
Let's not read too much into it.
Yeah, no.
Again, like I said, this Champions League phase, if you like, it doesn't matter. Honestly, we could go and lose against Leverkusen and Real Madrid, and I still wouldn't really be bothered about our prospects for later on in the season because we could well already have our job done by then. We could go into those two games with 9 points. Bayern could go and win their next 6, obviously, and this one just looks like a footnote then, and it's a group stage defeat that nobody will remember or care about unless you support Villa.
Yeah, that's very true. That is very true. That's the pluses and the minuses of this group. I mean, Villa have a historic win, but it could become a meaningless footnote, as you say.
They can both go through, draw each other in the quarterfinals, and Bayern win 5-1 on aggregate.
Yeah, absolutely. Any other Champions League fixture or result you want to pick out? I mean, Real Madrid lost, but didn't seem the most interesting game. Anything else? Any other game you want to pick out to talk about?
Not to talk about the performances because, again, didn't watch them, but results being keeping an eye on, obviously, would definitely include, shall we say, a chastening defeat for Salzburg, 4-0 at home to Brest. That's where Pepin Linders has wound up. That's where Bazetic is on loan and Bobby Clark is playing and so on. So always worth a look from a Liverpool perspective, of course. Leverkusen beating Milan 1-0 is one I will be watching. Let's put it that way. I'll certainly want to watch back as much of that game as I get a chance to. Celtic's bullishness about going through this group stage and a 7-1 defeat to Borussia Dortmund. Interesting. Those two things don't go together too well, do they? Beyond that, the only shock I really sort of looked at and thought, wow, what's happened there is the Benfica one, like spanked Atletico 4-0. So, again, probably worth a look, but also it's worth seeing how the next 2-3 games goes from both those clubs' perspectives.
Yeah, absolutely. It's an interesting one. I mean, I think it was Atletico Madrid's first loss of the season, which is kind of surprising considering the daftness of that result. I mean, 2 penalties conceded is just silly. But anyway, let's move on to Liverpool's game, which is Crystal Palace. I suppose the first question, Carl, is how much you've seen of Crystal Palace, and obviously sat 18th at the minute, which is not great, considering they ended the last season as the best team in the world. What have you made of Crystal Palace this season?
Yeah, definitely surprised at the start. Obviously, a couple of really, really poor performances at the start of the campaign. I think the first one I watched was the defeat to West Ham. I think that was the 2-0 at home one. That was, I think, a bit of an eye-opener for a few of them. I think even after the first defeat, they thought, back at home, we were really good last season, we'll be really good this year. So that was quite a surprise, scoreline and performance. Didn't see those two. Saw the draw with Chelsea. That was all right, let's say. Not an amazing performance, but a reasonable result. Obviously, 1-1 away to Chelsea, and Chelsea have since gone on to do particularly well. So they did have their 5 games in a row across all competitions where they were unbeaten, but only 2 wins in that period, which were both League Cup games, obviously. So positives and not positives to take from it. I did not watch Crystal Palace versus Manchester United because why would anybody choose to do that? And go and see most of the Everton match back. Mostly because that was actually Everton's obviously first win, and we were playing Palace next, so that one was kind of had to go back and watch rather than wanted to. But they were all right there. I didn't think that they were terrible. I didn't think they were, we lost to the bottom of league side, terrible kind of performance. They had a pretty good structure, the playing out was pretty good. Wing backs got forward nicely. The midfield, I think, is where they maybe undercooked matters a bit. They started with a central midfield pair. They've been playing 3-4-3, we should probably note that. So same as Glasner's set up last season and for all eternity, 2 kind of narrow, mobile, channel running, supporting players behind one striker. So the double pivot in midfield was Wharton and Kamada, which Dave obviously is a massive Adam Wharton fan. I don't think he's had quite as good a start to this season.
No, I'd agree with you.
Yeah, but still obviously a really good player. Daichi Kamada is a very, very good player, but I'm not sure central midfield in the Premier League against Everton's central midfield, when they are obviously going to be full of meat. And meat is probably the word. They played Mangala and Doucouré. So those two against Kamada and Wharton, who are essentially 2 different types of on-the-ball playmaking players, really. I know Wharton's fine, defensively good. And
considering Lerma was at centre-back as well, it seemed a bit daft.
Yeah, I think it was. I think that was a Glasner mistake, to be perfectly honest. And he did sub both of those starting central midfielders eventually, but they were already behind at that point.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think that they're quite as bad, shall we say, as results look. 3 defeats and 3 draws in the Premier League, so they still haven't won, and they're the only club other than the promoted clubs who haven't won a game this season. But don't think that they're quite that bad, though, in the same way as I don't think Everton were quite that bad 1 week previously when they hadn't won any of the first 5.
Mm-hmm.
So it will still be a really, really tough game, to be honest. But I think the big difference is, one, that midfield that I just mentioned, if they line up with a similar sort of plan there, and Liverpool's midfield play as they did against Bologna rather than as they did against Wolves, it's quids in for the Reds, basically. The wing-backs are a problem. The front 3, if they sort of start getting on the ball, as is having a good game and all the rest of it, obviously they can cause you problems. But you win the midfield against them, and at the minute, you kind of win it.
Yeah, obviously Doucouré picked up another injury after just coming back from his... Was he ACL, or did he? I think he did his knee, didn't he? He's out again. Who else? I've got the injury news in front of me. Chaddy Riyad's out for most of the season, I'm pretty sure, certainly the rest of this year. Chris Richards is out, who would probably be the left centre back starting usually. Doucouré, as I mentioned, Franca might be back, but might be a bit too early for him. Who people see as a talent, he might be the one to replace Elise, but he's had a lot of injury issues, and he came into a Roy Hodgson team from Brazil, so that was never going to work to begin with. And Rob Holding is at Crystal Palace, who knew? So yeah, I mean they are missing. Well, certainly probably both their left centre back and a starting midfielder there. It's a strange game, as you mentioned, because they are trying to find their feet with losing such a key player in Elise. And pre-season was weird. Mateta was at the Olympics. Basically, all of the signings were quite late on, apart from Kamada off the top of my head.
Yeah, and Nketiah was really late as well.
Yeah, the Lacroix was deadline day, I'm pretty sure. Chalobah was deadline day.
Yeah.
It's a bit strange. I mean, and Chalobah probably didn't have a pre-season either because he was sent to the dungeon by Chelsea, wasn't he? So yeah,
we traded in Ben Chilwell's back garden or something.
Well, that's true. Them two just at goals at five-a-side. Yeah, it's a bit of a weird one. I mean, if you look at the setup against Man United, which is probably more of probably how they set up against us. I know Man United are awful, but when it was Everton, they'd probably be thinking we'd be the dominant side, where against United, they'd probably think United would probably be the dominant side. They started with Dean Henderson, Lacroix at right centre-back, Gahey at middle centre-back, and Richards at left centre-back. Mitchell, Kamada, Wharton, Munoz, Nketiah, Eze off Mateta. It's a bit weird. I mean, you mentioned Kamada playing in midfield against Everton. Now, Everton's probably got a more meaty midfield than Liverpool, but we have the running power and quality of Gravenberch. We have the sheer quality of McAllister, and then the running power and quality of Dom Szoboszlai, if that is to be the midfield we start. And as we know, Arne Slot would rather die than rotate players. I just don't see you could use Kamada in midfield against our midfield. I'm sure you have to bring in a Lerma, or even someone like Chalobah at centre mid, who we did see at times for Chelsea, did play that position. Yeah, I feel like he'd be shooting himself in the foot if he starts Kamada in midfield.
Yeah, I would agree, and I think that's the right alteration as well. I think it's, if Lerma has to be in defence again, it's Chalobah you want to bring in, or bring in Chalobah in defence and put Lerma back in midfield. Either way, I think they do need that extra physicality, defensive presence, defensive first mindset, even, if you like. I love Cameron. I think he's a brilliant player, but I do think in most Premier League matchups he should be in that attacking line, and you've kind of then got to make a choice, him or Nketiah or Mateta, like two of those three to start. But you know, on the other hand, if we do have an off day, like we've said, if there's not that work rate, if we haven't got the off the ball diligence and closing down and the energy and all the rest of it, Kamada's good enough to play through us, and Wharton's good enough to play through us. So it's not without the realms of possibility that they just stick with that midfield again. And like I said, they did play well against Everton in general. I think it was just that it was more effective around and down the sides rather than straight through the centre, which is a really big part of how we play.
Yeah. No, you make a good point. We'll come on to Liverpool's side. I think I'm not... If I was a Palace fan, I wouldn't be too worried about the defence. I know they're conceding a decent amount of goals, but I feel like once it settles in and the midfield, you get Doucouré back and Lerma, etc., can move forward a bit more again. I feel like the defence will sort itself out. The attack is obviously the big one. As you mentioned, they played fine against Everton, but they obviously got the early goal, but they couldn't then kill the game. Mateta was obviously phenomenal when Glasner first came in last season. He obviously had as I mentioned earlier, he went to the Olympics, so he wouldn't have had a good pre-season with Palace, or if at all any pre-season with Palace. They brought in Nketiah late in the window, but he's not playing as you'd expect. I thought they'd maybe go to a two-striker system and then Eze off, and then Kamada could probably back up Eze. It looks like they're trying to morph Nketiah into more of an all-rounder attacker, and he's kind of playing off Mateta. I don't know. He's never struck me as a player who has that all-round game, but I might be wrong. It sounds like you've seen a bit more of Palace than me anyway.
Yeah, they've been using... I mean, like, he's obviously very quick, and he's he's keen, isn't he, to play? Let's be honest, because he's been sat on the bench playing 14 minutes for the last 6 years in a row or whatever. But I agree with you. I don't really see Nketiah as having the guile as much as anything else to play the kind of game where you need to be able to pick a pass and carry the ball and all the rest of it. Like, fine, if you counter-attack and you use him as an outlet in the channel, then okay, all good. And he's going to do ball carrying bits for you and the rest of it. But Glasner's teams have always been like quite, at least in spells, dominant in matches and like trying to hold on to the ball and like really, really quick to get the ball out to the wing backs and let them be the ball carriers. Like, you think back to his Eintracht side, key players was not really that central pairing. I would say it was like the side fullbacks who were really important at the first pass into midfield. Then the midfield, it was straight away out to Christ, his name's gone flying out of my head, left winger, who they had put in 700 crosses in a game.
Oh, the one who went to Juve?
Yeah, Serbian. Oh. Wow, his name's gone clearly out of my head. I'll remember it in a minute when we're not talking about anything to do with this. Anyway, that and getting the ball crossed over, and then those second balls and the little passages around the area. That's when the likes of Kamada and all the rest of them really that they had at the time was loads. But
Kostic.
Thank you. Yes, exactly. So, excuse me. That was where they were really utilising that sort of two number 10s. It was like the second balls and the final pass into the area. I'm not really sure you get that from Nketiah. And if you take him away from being the number 9, you're not going to get the actual best part of his game, which is obviously taking off plenty of shots a game. Like, at the minute, he's averaging under 1 shot per 90 minutes. And this is the guy who is a centre forward, and you've spent a big chunk of money on. His XG per game is 0.6, which is not
less than a big. That's less than a big chance, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it's not absolutely disgusting, but it's like he's way behind Mateta, for example, who is obviously the centre forward. I don't know. I just don't think that they're going to get a huge volume out of him playing there versus what you would get out of him playing normally. Like, he's averaging under 4 shots per 90, but obviously they're not of a great quality if his average shots on target is under 1 a game, if his XG is like a third of Mateta's and way, way, way below Eze, who is their best one, obviously. And then if you want to look at it in the other direction and see, well, is he doing the other side of the job? Is he ball carrying? Is he creating chances and all the rest of it? Look down the list of chances created for Crystal Palace and you let me know when you find out where Nketiah is. Because so far it's 1.
That's not good.
Hey guys, it's Eddie Gibbs from Anfield Index here. I hope you're enjoying this podcast, and I'm sorry to call time on the show before it ends. In the current climate, it's tougher than ever before to offer podcasts for free. At Anfield Index, we produce over 75 free shows every month, which I'm confident is unparalleled in the LFC sphere. Whilst we'd love to offer everything for free, the production costs now make this impossible. That said, we don't want to follow the model of other channels and lock all of our content behind a paywall. So what we've decided to do is to continue offering every show for free, but cut that offering to 30 minutes on our longer shows. So to get all of our shows in full and enjoy the best of everything we have to offer, we really hope you'll consider supporting the channel and signing up at AnfieldIndexPro.com. For about the price of 1 cup of coffee, you'll get every podcast in full with 0 ads. You'll also get access to our LFC VIP community, where you can enjoy live podcasts, engage with our podcasters, and chat with other Reds in real time. So that website again, AnfieldIndexPro.com. Join today.
This podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.